Hey guys, it's Ali here. You may notice this video is coming to you a day late. I actually made it yesterday, but I was really anxious yesterday. I was experiencing overload and lots of overload, which is exactly what this video is about. And when I watched it back, I was talking really fast. I was getting off track, I was forgetting my words, and it made me feel overloaded just watching it. So I decided to wait till today, start afresh. I'm keeping it real. I've got you here in my messy kitchen. I'm holding the phone, and I'm going to start again. And I'm going to be brief because I don't want to overload you. Now, here's the deal. We are all overloaded. And I'm talking about sensory overload and information overload. We are getting it from every angle. There was terrible news yesterday in the world, and I tried not to have anything to do with it. I didn't want anything to do with it. I've unfollowed half of my friends list specifically so I don't have to see difficult things, but still, there was no escaping it. There is no escaping. Hang on. Let me turn that off. There is no escaping the information that is coming to us. And our brain cannot cope. Okay, so that was one really difficult example. But there is so much information in our environment, and there is so much information coming to our brain all the time that our brain cannot escape it and cannot process it. And that is what causes overload. Our brain is filled with all these open tabs. If you think back 100 years ago, people were living, people were going through the motions of the day-to-day life. They were experiencing all the feelings. They were experiencing a very similar lifestyle to us, except without the gazillion pieces of information overloading their brain. And our brains were not designed to process information. Our brains were not designed to be our personal cyber connection. Our brains were designed to keep us alive. That's what their aim is. Now, the reason the brain gets overloaded and puts us into a state of anxiety is because it wants to process all the information. Because our brain is here for our survival, the information coming to it might be telling it that there's a shark in the water next to us, or that there's a risk, a serious, we're in a threat. And our brain wants every single piece of information that we're giving it so that it can decipher whether we're safe or not. So it really wants to understand all this information that we're giving it, but it just cannot. And that's when it goes into fight or flight, because it says to itself, well, I can't just process all this information. This is far too much. I literally cannot do it. So I'm just going to have to put you in fight or flight so that if there is a threat in your, immediate future, that you can save yourself, because I just cannot deal. That's what the brain does. Okay. Now, that's information overload. Also, sensory overload. It's very similar. Our environment is filled with sensory information. Just think of the five main, there's lots of senses, but I'm going to focus on the five, okay? The sights, the touch, the sounds, especially the things that we hear and the things that we see. There is so much of it everywhere. And if you picture 100 years ago, again, a bedroom, a playroom, a lounge room, and a classroom, close your eyes and picture what they looked like 100 years ago. Bedroom, playroom, lounge room, and classroom. And now close your eyes again and think about what they look like now. It's confronting, actually, when you do that. It should be confronting. We are filling our environments with more and more and more and more and more. And screens have been a big, big part of that. Screens have their place. I'm not dissing them, but in terms of sensory overload, there is so much. Now, it doesn't matter if you have sensory processing disorder, if you have an actual inability to process sensory information. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about sensory overload, which every single one of us experience, because again, there is so much sensory information coming to our brain all at the same time that the brain just can't process it. So we're left with just all this unfiltered information in our brain, literally, because our brain likes to, when the information comes to it, it likes to process it and either archive, delete, file away for another day, or action. And if it just can't process it, those emails or tabs are just left open, unactioned, waiting until the brain can deal with it. And that is what causes overload. Okay, I think you understand that. Like we all experience this. That makes sense. Here's the thing. There is stuff you can do about it. You can manage overload. You can't remove it, but we can adapt. We can make adaptations in our own lives. So, here's my advice for sensory overload. Just start with one wall or one room, or make one special little space in your home, in your garden, in your school, somewhere. And think about how you can reduce the sensory information in there. First, start by thinking about the things you can see. Look around, look at my kitchen. Look around and think, how can I reduce the visual input in here? Is it lights? Can I take off the curtains and bring more natural light in so I don't have lights shining on me? Can I clean up or get rid of a lot of the clutter? Yes. Can I stop having all these things hanging from the roof in classrooms? This wall, it's beautiful and it makes me feel good about my children, and I hope that it makes my children feel empowered and confident that I'm displaying their work. But in terms of sensory overload, hell yeah, look at all that. It's all over the place. It's all different colours. It's like just filling the space with sensory information. And then the stuff you can hear, that's a big one. We've always got unnecessary noises going on around us. So in every room, go around your house or your classroom and think, what is making a noise in here? And how can I reduce that? Is it necessary, or is it sound pollution? TVs, radios and stuff going on in the background is usually sound pollution. The noises our phone makes, mute them, turn them down. What can we do? Can we even make a little room in our house with a set of noise cancelling headphones or earmuffs? How can we reduce? Let's think about all of the senses and just make one or two changes in each room, and you will be amazed at the amount of difference it makes. Or, like I suggested, create your own tiny little space somewhere and start from scratch. Neutrals. And I'm not talking about putting beautiful little white trinkets around so it looks all Instagrammable. I'm talking about actually removing. Making it neutral. Making it light or dark, but not colourful. And not filled with things. These things are easy to do. It's easy to do that. You don't need money to do it. You don't need a lot of time to do it. You just need to start. And the other thing, information overload. Here's my biggest tip. Try to stop picking up your phone in those moments in between. So, when you're waiting in line for the toilet at the airport, which I was there on the weekend, and everyone's like just scrolling mindlessly. If you're in the waiting room, you're in the car waiting for school pickup, all of those little in-between times, we don't let our brains stop these days in our in-between moments. We're like, okay. We give ourselves a couple of seconds and then we're like, okay, pick up the phone. And we just start scrolling and we look at links and we read about parenting, and then we think, oh, such and such would enjoy this, and we share it. And we're constantly using this executive functioning, which is all about making decisions and analysing, evaluating, learning, reasoning. And that all happens behind our eyebrows, which is where we get all these headaches now, because we just never give this little bit a rest. Never. We're always using it. And that needs to stop. So try to stop picking up your phone in the in-between moments. That is my favorite first step. And I will leave it there because we have become accustomed to picking up our phone in those tiny moments. And so that in itself is going to be a big shift. That is going to be a big thing to stop and to change. But it's an excellent starting place. If you'd like more information about this, let me know, because I think I might do a webinar and just fully talk about the brain and what's happening with sensory overload and go into more details about how you can adapt your environment and give our poor little brains a break. They just were not designed for this. They are on overdrive. Anyway, going to leave it there. I'm going to go back to cooking my breakfast and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.